everybody, you know what time it is? It's time for another episode of We Speak Dispatch, but this one's even better because this episode we're going to be talking about celebrity encounters.
I love the energy. I love the energy.
Celebrity encounters, everybody. That's our topic today. We've got Jill joining us. We've got Joe joining us, and both of them are ready to talk about their celebrity encounters. And we got Jazzmine over there ready to talk about her celebrity encounters too. So let's get it right going. Jazzmine, first up, just give us a little bit of a brief history of who you are, since we maybe don't know who you are right now. Who are you?
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. If you are looking for ransom, I can tell you I don't have money. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills.
Who are you? Are you a celebrity?
No, absolutely not. I'm a lowly dispatch training supervisor. I've been with my agency almost 19 years, and I work in Southern California.
Okay, Southern California. All right, so let's talk about some celebrity encounters because way back, I hate to go way back for myself, but that's when I was started. But back in the very early days, I remember taking a 911 call from somebody who was saying she was being chased by paparazzi when I worked in downtown LA. And her name was Pamela Anderson. And the best part of this whole call was, so as I'm talking to her, I'm getting information. I'm telling her we don't really have a way. She wanted to come where we were at. And I'm like, you really can't come here because we're in a really bad part of town. Not a good spot. But I remember telling her, like, ma'am, I'm going to need your cell phone number just for our records. But I did not do that. But when I hung up, I was like, oh my God, I just talked to Pamela Anderson. And everybody's like, no. I'm like, yeah, it was crazy. Because sometimes they want like a little extra, like, you know who I am? Can you give me something out there? So who else has got a story about a celebrity encounter they may have had?
I'll go, Doug, because our agency, our agency is in Iowa, where you wouldn't think there's a lot of celebrities, but one of the things that we do deal with is we're one of the first states in the presidential election years to caucus and have information results. So I would say our biggest celebrity that we deal with is the president of the United States, no matter who it is. They come into town a lot of times, they're paraded through town, and then there's plans and information about when they'll be at the airport, when they'll be here, when they'll be there. And that information is kept very, very quiet until like the last minute and planning for that. And then when it's the debates during the caucuses, you have all of the candidates coming to town. And then if it's a year where the current president is going out because maybe they've served 8 years, then you have the vice president plus all the other people trying to get on the ticket. And then you do that for both parties. And so our celebrity encounters where I work basically revolves around politics.
Do you get a lot of like calls of people saying like the roadway's blocked for these people, get them out of the damn way?
Sometimes when we're blocking the main interstate for a little bit, they do take a few calls about what they're blocking and how long will it be blocked and things of that nature. So we do take those type of calls.
Yeah,
yes.
I've had some people that I know in New York said that they get a lot of calls like that saying, stop blocking the streets are bad enough. So who else has another story about a celebrity encounter? Go ahead, Jill.
I'll go next. So when I was in 911, we didn't have, I can't think of any big people, but we had local TV celebrities that had houses in our area. And I worked midnights for my entire career. So we didn't have to deal with like the road closure for these people, but like the one called quite a few times. He never specifically said it, but it sounded like he was having domestic issues.
Oh, God.
And it was always right now. Well, I know who you are. We all know who you are. But
so
there's
you
other
watch them on the news where you're like, all right.
And that was the weird thing. So you're dealing with this person on the phone and they have a completely different personality than what you see on TV.
Yeah.
Which was hard to, it was hard to like swallow the first time I heard him talking to me on the phone. And then I saw him on TV. I'm like, these are two different people. But there was a couple times when we had like the local like politicians or the TV people call because they had issues. And some of them didn't want to know, like they were just like, hey, whenever you get out here. And others were like, no, right now. Do you know who I am?
Your area kind of butted up to Washington, D.C., to Silver Springs, where all the main political people are at. That's a pretty high area over there. So
so we were like the Annapolis, the capital, and then Baltimore was just south of us where all the local TV stations were. So we had quite a few calls, but not like any big celebrities like Pamela Anderson.
No, I mean, I'm just saying, I mean, there is some things out there.
Not that I know of, not any that strike me, but
We-
it was mostly TV personalities.
I will tell you one, and then we'll get to Jazzmine's story here too. But I took a call of a guy that said he ran over somebody, and so he was on the guy was on a bicycle. The driver was in a Tesla, ran this guy over, and I asked him his name. He told me his name. I never really thought anything about it. I was like, whatever. And we started getting calls from TMZ and CNN saying we want this 911 call, and I'm like, for what? And they're like, it was a celebrity, and they said his name, and I did not know who he was. I didn't know who he was. So I pulled the tape and I realized, well, then I pulled the tape. I realized, oh my God, I took the freaking call. So it was like, oh my God. So it ended up on TMZ's Facebook page for a while. And it was like, luckily I did a good job. So I didn't have any trouble with it, but it was just a really weird, because there are celebrities out there that I don't know who they are. I don't know their names. So I'm like, unless you're somebody famous like Pamela Anderson, I wouldn't know who you are. So, I mean, things happen. Guys, so Jazzmine, what do you got? You got any celebrity stories? You're in kind of a rich area down there.
We do. We have a community that has a lot of celebrities that live there. I think one of the main ones I can think of is, I didn't necessarily talk to the celebrities at the wedding, but there was a very large wedding in the area, and it brought in, I don't know, every paparazzi for the 500-mile radius, and helicopters. And so the problem that we faced was all the neighbors calling, because the roads are impacted. So the CHP was there, like trying to, figure out the roads. And then the neighbors are pissed because the helicopters are loud, and then there's party. And it was a nightmare, because it was like all night, because there was just hundreds of people.
What do you tell people when they say there's helicopters out here? What can you do? I mean, is there anything you can do?
So we tell them that they can make a complaint with the FAA if they want to, because what it is that's, they're mad that there's a helicopter flying over. I mean, there's something that, officers on the ground can do, and, shout with a megaphone, like, don't fly over here. I mean, it's like, they can't do anything. So, we just tell them, like, if you want to have a complaint, you have to contact FAA. And anyway.
Wow.
So that was a hot
mess. Doug, here is that you can become a celebrity. And the story I'll share with this is one of our, at my old agency, they wrote a press release, and I don't mean to laugh about it because somebody did lose their life. We had an F0 tornado blow through an open area where a trailer was ripped off and thrown down the field, rolled over several times. One person was in it. But the way that press release was written in such a way that my office phone started ringing from national ABC News. So, and remember, as a dispatcher, if you have a tremendous attitude on a phone call, or if you do a great job in retrospect or whatever, you yourself, or the way you write a press release, could become a celebrity of national news based on your actions. So just know, if you haven't had an encounter with a celebrity, that celebrity might be you based on your
So, Jazzmine, I do have a question about that, because in my area, we used to have it was a mansion, and they used to, some big, I don't know, hip hop star, millionaire, whatever, would throw these big parties. So the traffic was impacted. Do you, or can you, or do they ask these celebrities who are going to have these parties or events at their houses, do you ask them to contact you guys and let you know that there's going to be this going on, so that you have the manpower to handle it?
We don't. I mean, that's a good question. I don't know. We do have like we have a intelligence unit, and so they kind of they're more kept in the loop as far as, but that's for like security purposes.
Yeah.
So sometimes if we know ahead of time, we'll be like, okay, we got this going on, so that we could potentially either upstaff or just be aware that we're going to be getting some phone calls. But ultimately, it's not like, unless they want to tell us, there's really no way that we'd be able to find out, unless they're saying, hey, for security purposes, because they're going to be, a bunch of people, and, safety and all that kind of stuff. So
we used to get that for like politicians when they came into our town, like when I worked in LA or San Bernardino, when they would come into town, you'd have to be where they're going to be at all times and all that stuff. We had checkpoints they had to give us and all that kind of stuff. So very secure stuff out there. But I will tell you, I did have an encounter pretty close to where Jazzmine's area is. I was working in our office down in Ventura, and somebody called and was really complaining about a car parked on the street near their house. And I'm like, our dispatcher was handling it. And finally she was like, hold on for a supervisor. And I'm like, oh, great. So I took the call and I'm like, what's going on? And the guy said, this car's been parked here all day and it needs to move. And I'm like, is it in a no parking area? No. Is it blocking something? No. And I'm like, well, I don't understand. Why do you want this car moved so bad? Do you know whose house this is, sir? I'm like, no. And he goes, Oprah Winfrey's house. And I'm like, oh God. I'm like, just because there's a car parked there, we're not moving it because Oprah don't like it. It's like, that's the way it is. So he was very unhappy and he wouldn't speak to my boss. And it was a big old thing, but it was like, they just expect, sometimes they expect like extra, something. And I don't have anything to give them. So.
And I do have another question. In your CAD system, do you notate the houses that might have somebody in it that would be?
Oh, like premise history.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, but we, especially because like for a lot of them have gate codes and things like that that we would need for medicals and other things. So so but they have to share that with us. But we have them flagged, like, certain locations, especially because sometimes it's a high security issue. And so for them, it's like, they want to make sure that we have all their information. We had someone move in recently to our area and they have specifically have like a stalker issue. Oh, and so they like are in, they have, so when that is the case, then we would need to make sure we have like all the information on the premise, where the doors are. So that's more intensive because they're like, okay, if we call, we need someone to show up, immediately. But again, that has to be all provided to us. They have to want to be willing to share those, the gate codes and security, codes and all that stuff with us.
Do you guys have somebody who will go out and knock on the doors or try to make contact with people that live there to get the information, or do you just wait for the information to come to you? We just wait for them to give them to us. Sometimes the security teams for different people that live in the area will, like I said, will contact our intelligence bureau and then they work with them on just making sure that they have, appropriate security at their location. But I actually recently reached out to our PIO after, what fire was it? We had a fire maybe a year or so ago. And we had a huge issue trying to get into properties to evacuate. Because we didn't have gate codes. And so like fire department, they have Knox keys, so they can get into pretty much anything, and they have bolt cutters. So if they need to cut a padlock, they just cut a padlock. Well, the deputies don't have, keys and all that other stuff. So it's like, well, if they can't get into the gate, they can't get in there. So I reached out to, our PIO and the fire PIO. And I said, we should consider like a joint press release on gate codes and if you want to provide them to us, you should, because in the event of emergency, we would need to, help you evacuate. So, I mean, that's kind of off the topic of celebrities, but so that's, we get their information if they want to share it.
But you had some pretty, I remember when when Michael Jackson's place was going over there and the trials were happening and all the traffic was nightmarish over there and people were complaining like crazy, but it was like, it's like where the guy lives. You can't really, it's a narrow street. I don't know if you've ever been over there, but it's a very narrow road up to this place. Like, there's not much we can do. We got all paparazzi lining the streets waiting for him to roll by. So
and it was, that was a mess. And then his trial was in the city. So that was a hot mess because you had just people looky-loos and paparazzi and like, but fortunately the city is not our area. If we're a county entity. So we have the courthouse. So the deputies had to, they were there for the courthouse and security, but then like all the surrounding streets, that's all city streets. So it was like a joint effort between city and county to, deal with the mess.
Wow. Did you guys get notified? Did you work there during that time?
Yes.
Did you guys get notified that, hey, Michael's going to be heading to court today? You guys got to be ready for that kind of thing? Or I know we did too. It was kind of a thing. So, wow.
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about with these celebrity kind of encounters is I don't necessarily mean celebrities in a bad way. There could be some good celebrity encounters. I had a really, several times I've met this fella and it's like, everybody's like, oh my God. Because every time I tell people where I used to work, they always ask one question. Do you know John and Pine? Like, I was like, oh, Derek Estrada again. There he is. Yes. So it was like, and when I worked in LA as a new dispatcher, John and Ponch used to both come in there because they were doing audio stuff in the back room. So we'd see them. And I remember when they first came in, I was like, oh my God, that's John and Ponch. But after a while, it was like, yeah, there they are.
For us, Doug, it would be more of the sports celebrities. So we have a few major sports people. Zach Johnson, he's a major winner and a golfer that's from Iowa, as well as Kurt Warner. There's a movie being made about him, and they do good things in our community. And they have like a golf outing or something like that where all these celebrities come and participate at the golf outing. And sometimes we provide traffic control or security for something along those lines. But fortunately, they're usually a positive event where we don't hear too much from them.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of those kind of events. I know that 901 for Kids, or one of those organizations out there, does a golf tournament with a bunch of athletes, celebrity people. And I've done a couple of those down in Dana Point and stuff. So those are always a neat thing to kind of go out and meet the community and see the community interacting with these people and us too. And it was kind of a big thing out there. So wow, what a celebrity edition we just had here. My goodness, we're like TMZ now. Holy cow. Well, if you've had a celebrity encounter, let us know about it. Send us a message. Maybe you're going to say, you know what? I want to be sitting where Jazzmine's at. Maybe not in her house, in that box down there. and say, hey, I got to tell you about my celebrity encounter, whether it's good or bad or whatever. Let's hear from you, and you can tell us all about it. Leave us a message, send us an email, do whatever you got to do. But we're on every darn podcast platform you could think of right now. And Joe, do you know how many countries it is right now?
We're over 30 with over 10,000 plays. It is just absolutely incredible. Thank you, everybody, for listening to us. We're everywhere.
And we just started going up on TikTok, so you'll see a lot of fun stuff popping up there. We got some new things to put up that are really like kind of behind the scenes kind of things before the episodes actually get started. There's some things happening out there, so you'll see some of that. So Jazzmine, thank you for coming by for another episode with our celebrity encounters.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Go out and make it a great day, because you know we all will. So have a great day, everybody.
Hey, this is Jill, and you've been listening to another great episode of We Speak Dispatch, proudly sponsored by our friends at Zybex.